ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would love to have you. Shout out to Bumblefoot for that awesome intro music. I always appreciate that. You guys, please follow us on all of our social media sites on, let's see, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter or X, and Facebook. It's all at Spaced Out Radio. I do believe Instagram is at Spaced Out Radio Show, but you guys know y'all can find us. Just type in Spaced Out Radio, and you guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com. That is my website. All of my shows are posted there. I'm not just here at Spaced Out Radio. I have several amazing live shows over on my YouTube channel, and I post those on Rumble and all over social media. But look up the Cryptid Huntress, and you'll find me there. All right. Well, if you guys would like to join us in Reno, Nevada, my gosh, we're having a Spaced Out Radio fan party next month. That's May 10th through the 12th in Reno, Nevada. If you want more information, go to the Spaced Out Radio website for that. Okay. And come see me. We're going to be broadcasting live. We're having a VIP party. We're going to be partying it down and just having a good time. A lot of great people are going to be there hanging out with us. We had a really good time last year. So I hope to see you guys there. All right. Well, don't forget that right after this show tonight, we've got After Hours with another fantastic show. My goodness, Dave Scott was on air live today for an afternoon show, and Rob G had a pretty fantastic show last night. They've been breaking some news, okay, with some UFO whistleblower. I don't know the details, y'all. Okay. I'm not too versed on it, but I'm sure people in the chat know all about it. So y'all stay tuned for whatever is breaking here on Spaced Out Radio. Okay, we have a fantastic show tonight. I have my friend Barry Littleton in the studio tonight, and we're going to be talking about time travel, time technology, time science, and we're trying not to be late. Okay. Anyways, yeah, we've got a great show lined up for us tonight. And like I said, don't forget that right after this show tonight, go over to After Hours, and I'll see you guys over there. Okay, well, let's get to the show tonight. Barry Littleton was born awake with fragmented past life memories. He began having paranormal experiences at a young age. These experiences included telepathic awareness, seeing or feeling ghosts, and various inorganic beings. These encounters and some of the entities themselves had distinct extraterrestrial origins. That led him into a lifetime of research and exploration into the metaphysical and paranormal fields. Now, you guys, if you watch my channel, if you watch my shows, y'all know that Barry is one of my sidekicks over here. So please help me welcome to the show my friend, Barry Littleton. Hey, Barry.
Hey, what's up, Jessica? How's it doing? Thank you for having me. Hello to the audience, and honored to be here. Somewhat surprised, but I think it will be a very interesting conversation as usual, you know.
Well, of course. Well, this is not the first time you and I have talked about time technology, time edits, timeline protectors. Okay. Anything that has to do with time. And one of my favorite topics are time travelers, or is time travelers, I guess. I love this. And, and I remember the Art Bell shows, and I know you said that those are some of your favorites, are the time travelers that used to call into Art Bell.
Yeah, there was a guy that said he was from the year 2036, and I think he gave 2 years, 2034 and 2036. There's a couple of people that called in, and it was really interesting. And I think a lot of times people get overlapped at thinking that was where John Titor had called in. John Titor showed up on a website. It wasn't Art Bell's website, and all that kind of got filtered over into him and connected. But that John Titor thing was kind of a separate story outside of Art Bell. But a couple of people that called in Art Bell were pretty interesting too.
Well, okay. Well, you just put out a couple of fantastic videos this week on your YouTube channel, Barry Littleton on YouTube. You guys, please go subscribe to Barry's channel and to his Patreon. You put out a couple of fantastic videos. One was talking about John Titor. Now, can you explain to the audience who John Titor is or was?
Yeah, by the way, thank you. Yeah, Spirit had pushed me to both those videos are 5 years old, but Spirit pushed me to make them public. So I just went ahead and I just conformed. But the thing, I think the reason why that is, I was being pushed like that, is the
Mhm.
fact that we're in a really high solar cycle right now. We just came out of on the 20th these huge geomagnetic storms and also all these sunspots that were going on. And I want everybody to be aware it's the times of doing high solar activity that we get these time edits, these time shifts, aka Mandela effect, whatever cool terms you want to call them. But that's actually when they occur is at times of high solar activity. Look at the solar activity that was going on during uh, 9/11, and you had actually something, a time edit there. When I say that, one's very kind of noticeable is that the fact that Manhattan was in the middle of a Hurricane Aaron, but it was crystal clear blue skies the day of 9/11. What?
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at me, they say, "Well, I don't remember that." Well, look up NOAA if you don't believe me. It's right there. Anyway, so that's just one of those things.
Yeah, I don't really even recall there being a big storm at all because the skies were clear that day, which was interesting. But I mean, I remember there being flooding or hearing about flooding down in the underground systems where they have the trains and stuff. So I don't remember all that. I think that everybody's attention was so focused on the 9/11 towers falling that I guess we just didn't pay attention to the other stuff, or at least I didn't.
Yeah, it's always very subtle like that. Like the day you drive by a house and you swear it was another color before, but you're like, how did they possibly paint it that fast? It's weird little things that some of us that are time sensitives can kind of catch it. These little shifts or these little edits. But right now, when everybody know we're in a cycle like that right now, the sun's very active. So be aware. Let's see how many people start reporting Mandela effects and things like that, feeling deja vu more than what they would. Anyway, back to the famous, infamous John Titor
John
story,
Titor.
right? When he showed up on the website, he was saying that he was a time traveler from the year 2036, and he had some type of an advanced IBM that he had to get a component to come back here and get a basic IBM to get a component for. And he claimed that he actually showed what's real interesting. He showed this diagram. He actually showed a patent for a time displacement unit, and also said he had it in this Corvette. He took up pictures of this unit and took in this Corvette also. There you go. Good job. And very interesting when it comes to this patent. And this is what I'm going to say again. I know people always get irritated, but this is like back in the 90s. I'm just keeping it 100. All right. People had never heard of CERN. And this man said that he was whatever he worked, agency he worked for, whatever, but he said that CERN, a company called CERN, would inadvertently discover time travel along with some other exotic particles. And that's when CERN got everybody's radar right there. And I mean, it almost blew up right then that they were going to destroy the world and everything. That's right on the Art Bell show. And for me, I wasn't that taken by the Hadron Collider because there's things like the Cosmotron and Fermilab. Those things have been going on for a long time, but people aren't really aware of them. They just called them cyclotrons. Anyway, going back to that. But that's the John Titor thing. Now, as far as what he showed diagrams of that machine. He showed the patent and some of the things that he said was very interesting in terms of future predictions and things like that. So, but that's kind of the John Titor story. But most importantly, I think is connecting him with CERN. And just to look at the diagram, I think you've got some of that on there. So sadly, yeah, I have been because I'm a contactee and experiencer, and I have had experience with a doppelganger when I was 7 years old. I saw someone that looked like me when I was older, when I got older. Okay, and I had a very odd experience. And then I had experiences with these. Oh gosh, I'm about to gotta eat a little crow on this, Jones. I had these experiences with these Nordic cats. All right, and I called one of them a charter. Alex was his name, and I had two interactions with this individual. And he was a Nordic cat, but he was, I'm sure, some type of a time traveler. That I call them charters, because they tend to show up for those of us that are lifetime contactees. Every 7 years, somebody will show up that comes out of a crowd. Normally, when you're at a library or an airport or a bus, they come out and they come up to you and they say something that's just heavy. It just triggers your consciousness. It does something. They need to slip back off in the crowd. They're gone. But it's these individuals. If you can feel energy, though, there's something different about these individuals, more than just, I think sometimes humanity is more than just biology. And they feel like, for instance, if we don't maybe blow ourselves up and destroy ourselves, what are we going to feel like as a people in 1,000 years or 2,000 years before we start maybe going to another container of consciousness? Food for thought, you know what I mean? But when I talk about the charters, I've got more responses over the years probably than anything else. But anyway, that's why I'm so into time travel, and it gave me a life obsession about it, and studying time science and going on. That's pretty much where it's at. Whether it be good or bad. I can't hear you. You muted?
Oh, I am totally muted. Yes, thank you, Barry. Yes. Okay, so I've really been into the time travel aspect of all of this field research that we do, because we actually, when we're out in the field, we do time experiments and things like that, because we have had missing time, and that is a part of the field research. At times, I've had missing time from the first time I ever went into the field doing Bigfoot field research, and where my equipment that I had on me, my digital equipment, went forward an hour, and the guy that was with me, who was sitting not 5 feet from me, 3 feet from me, his went backwards an hour. And we were having ET contact. We had a UFO flying over us. We had all this weird stuff going on, but we had missing time. Something clearly happened, but we just couldn't put our finger on what it was. And that's what led us to be trained in remote viewing, actually, to look into this kind of stuff. Was that incident. Absolutely. And also over the past, I'm going to say like 3 or 4 years ago, at the meadow where we do research, we were hiking into the meadow one night, and it was dark, and I heard from across the creek a woman's voice. And this is in the middle of nowhere, and it is pretty much inaccessible to this area, where I heard a woman's voice screamed out. She goes, "Time travel!" really loud, and it was right beside a body of water that was moving, so there was white noise, and so but I clearly heard it, and I stopped the 2 people that were with me, and I said, "Whoa, did you guys hear that?" And they both did not hear it at all. They didn't hear it, but it was so loud, and it took me about a week, or it was a couple weeks later. It was in my head. It was in my head so much, and it was really kind of freaking me out a little bit. Turns out I realized that was my voice. That was my voice that said time travel, Barry. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that we could go with that one when you try to make sense of that.
You've got your hands in a lot of pots. One is that you RVing yourself is one possibility, correct?
Yes.
And then there's another one. At some point in the future, is somebody going to send you some type of a gizmo you start playing with?
I hope so.
Like the way I started messing with that. I don't have it in here. This little damn box. It looks like this radionics device, and I got it from this gentleman named Stephen Gibbs. He was on the Art Bell show back in the '90s, saying he had a time device, and he was selling them. So after my accident, I got a hold of this cat, and I got one of these things. And I got it for like $100 or something. He's saying, "No, we're just going for $400." And it's this little radionics device that comes with this huge electromagnetic. Looks like it can, this headband. I even had my engineering friend look at it before I used it to make sure I didn't fry my testicles when I put this thing on. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it didn't. Anyway, without going too far, but it's an interesting little device. Okay, he makes huge claims about it, that it can make these time jumps and these other things, and it doesn't do that, but it does have these electromagnetic effect on like crystalline watches and the time field. So it does affect it a little. And, you know, I called him and he sent these really advanced journals to me. And then I had to give him a call and told him this thing doesn't really work. But, you know, anybody tell you that? He started telling me, well, if you're one of those soulless alien hybrids, my technology won't work on you. And I never told him I was going to contact anything. I was like, oh, really? It wouldn't be, it just doesn't work. He, no. And I said, well, man, you could maybe generate some closed time-like curves in there and it might do something. I don't need to hear that blank from you. You alias, these soulless hybrid, he went off on me. Yeah, so that I never talked to him again. But anyway, so be it. Just if you know, but it's funny, you know. I'll say something about this thing. All right, he gives very specific instructions with it over what would be an electromagnetic point in your house, a vortex or some type of small one. And I did all this stuff. And at one point, something did happen. All right, I had come home one night and I had this big thing of sushi. And it was like, I was really looking forward to getting down. There was some albacore. It was some unagi. Oh, yeah. And, you know, I was playing with this machine thing. And I went to the refrigerator. My food was gone. And believe me, I didn't eat it. Nobody nobody ate it. It was gone. And I say it was a little minor shift in the, you know, little things like that. You're playing with these things that could do just a little shift in your time field that, you know, it's just food for thought. I'm not encouraging anybody to get an HDR, hyperdimensional resonator unit, but it's interesting. You may start playing with something like that, like you were playing with those voice boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't you messing with those? There you go.
Yeah. Well, I was just watching a little segment where it was actually in the news, and there was a gentleman out of, I don't know where, somewhere in the United States, but he was playing with sound frequencies and put a device on his bed. I think a lot of us have seen that video of a man that puts a little device on his bed, and then it kind of makes a rip in the atmosphere, and a circle portal opens up, and he says that it's Sedona, I guess that's Arizona, right? It's Sedona. And so it starts going, and the guy disappeared. Is what they were saying in this video, that he actually disappeared from his apartment or his home. But the portal opened, and you could see it looked like, you know, I did a show a while back with Dennis Carroll. We were talking about magic mirrors, and in these black mirrors that you see in some of the paintings from a long time ago, like Renaissance paintings. They have these things that look like black mirrors, but what if those are Stargate portals or some kind of portal that to us it looks like a mirror in a painting, but it's really like a portal of some sort. I think this technology has been around for a long time.
You know, just scrying with mirrors themselves is very dangerous. You can scry with mirrors in water, and it starts accessing consciously what we call the levels of fluidity. And you know, when you do certain things, they're entities and beings, inorganic beings, that's a knock on the door to them. And sometimes they'll come through those mirrors and they can't go back through. And you've got something bothering you the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So something else about those black mirrors, really interesting. You know, I heard that gentleman that had, I may have mentioned it on some show before, but that gentleman that had bought all of P.T. Barnum's collection, and they put it on like some type of a train, like moving around and showing this stuff, or some sort of a caravan.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he was talking to me, an interviewer, asking about, in fact, who was it? It couldn't even been Art Bell for all I know. But he said they were asking him what the most ominous object he had was. And he started going, it's that mirror, that black mirror. He said, it's really old, and we keep it separate from everything and never show it. And he said, it's really bad. And he said some things about it, how like, yeah. So, you know, it's interesting when we start getting into these things, and actually when he start penetrating dimensions with mirrors.
Yeah, it could be dangerous. Okay, it'd be dangerous, and we don't, you know, like my team, we're into studying portals. Okay, and we've encountered at least one, out in the field, and so, I mean, it's just dangerous. We don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. The two guys that went inside of it are both deceased now. Okay, and we have our suspicions that might have had something to do with that, with their health problems they got after that. But yeah, there's so much for us to learn, and there have been pioneers in this, and those are the people that we heard on Art Bell, when we were young, when I was younger. But it just sounded like it was kind of crazy back then. It's like, well, I don't know. We had those shows like Unsolved Mysteries, and it sounded like something that would be on Unsolved Mysteries.
The cat with the voice. The cat with the voice. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. When going into things, though, that the people that have come forward, it's always interesting to look at those that are presenting real-time science. And right now we've got a problem with transparency in the private sector concerning real time control technology and time science technology. It's a real problem. You know what I mean? And like, for example, something that like one of the principles of like for real time science would be like time warp fields. Okay, that's one. Another one is quantum tunneling, which is essentially sending information backward through time in a way. Okay, then you've got also circulating light beams, which is a video I just put out yesterday at the urging of spirit. It was a really old one, but it's still, the information is pertinent. And I was talking about really like circulating light beams is a way of, okay, let me go back. Sorry. I'm getting too excited. I gotta calm down. All right. So when dealing with real like time science and what that's based on is something called closed time-like curves. And for example, something like the Earth actually being, for those of us that, sorry, I'm going to get myself in trouble. For those of us that don't think it's flat, okay, and the Earth is somewhat oval or spherical, okay, it creates something that's called a frame drag, all right, inertial frame drag, which is actually the curvature of space and gravity beneath the Earth, all right? And within that, it creates closed time-like curves. So it's a matter of these technologies are harnessing closed time-like curves. Like another way that they propose time travel is cosmic strings, and that would be using that based on closed time-like curves. I don't agree with that one as much, but that's another possibility. All right. When dealing something like real disclosure, let's see someone like Anderson, them talking about the time reactor that they were trying to get a patent for. It's not at all like what we're hearing about, this Pegasus stuff and all these things that are so far out. But what it was this, and if you go to my YouTube channel and go to the playlist and go to time science and time technologies, there's about 20 videos on there. I talk about a lot of this stuff. All right. Anyway, this time reactor that he was trying to get patent consisted of these magnetic generators, okay, with a plasma that creating that like type of a bubble, all right, the rotating fields, these rotating magnetic fields, and then this bubble was exposed to like an array of like 20 antenna. They're actually firing down lasers into this bubble, and the lasers are used to advance and retard the time field of the bubble. All right, and they were doing all sorts of experiments with that to see like what would, how much of these things like grandfather paradox and things like that actually exist. But this thing, as it's registered, and I've got diagrams on it on my videos, it's ran by a quantum computer. And let me just take that and flip that over to something else. That is something, I just did a thing about the hacking of the human brain and how they're doing this thing with Google called the World Sentient Program, or I'm sorry, the World Sentient Simulation. And what it is they're trying to map not just the human brain, but map the brain and for Google. There's a whole thing they're doing with that. It's really creepy. Okay, but when dealing like with quantum computer, and this thing is run, this simulation is run by a quantum computer. Something similar to a D-wave is what I was reading. And when somebody asked me, I had somebody been following me for years, and they do some stuff with those big corporations, computer-wise. And they sent me a message. They said, "Barry, have you ever seen a quantum computer?" It's probably 5 years ago. And I said, actually, no, I hadn't. I assumed it was some type of really compact system or something like that. And then she want to send me one. They sent me for the IBM, one of those, and some others. And I was shocked. You know, when I looked at the thing, to be honest with you, to me, it looked like the rotator for the TARDIS on Doctor Who, the thing in the middle of the TARDIS. It looks quite similar to that, just the quantum computers. And that kind of creeped me out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is what
Well,
it is. So.
well, it's that soft disclosure, Barry. Like they put it out there in these TV shows. It is shocking how much of the information and just the visuals from Star Trek are actual real life. I mean, who'd have thunk it? For real.
Oh, I mean, anybody who's into that knows. You could go all the way back to the 60s and you see what? You see Spock and Uhura sitting up there with Bluetooth in their ear, pretty much. They're funny looking, but that's essentially what that's supposed to be. Okay? If you look further at a Picard and a TNG, the next generation, he had iPads all over his desk all the time. iPads. That's pretty far back, 86, 87. You know, anyway, but yeah, that's always fun, you know, to see the things that pop up in that. But you know, then again, that's a ship that uses time warp field. They warp fields, but they're not really time warp fields on that show. It's a little more far out. But you know, going further in that video I put out yesterday, I know you want to talk about a little bit. This with the circulating light beams, I talked about Dr. Ron Mallett that used to be at the University of Connecticut. He's a brother, probably about 60, and he created a time machine or a time device. And what it's based on is circulated light beams, laser beams that are going in a circulating pattern that create closed time-like curves. That's Dr. Ron Mallett. Anybody can look him up. All right. So, and also I talked about what's called the SETI project. And it's amazing to me that people don't know about that. OSETI. Everybody knows about SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, but they don't know about OSETI, the optical search for extraterrestrial intelligence, where they're actually got a whole different kinds of radio telescopes and things that are looking for lasers and circulating light beams and things like that. Because, you know, actually radio signals simulate in space. That's not really reliable what they're trying to do with the SETI thing, but OSETI that nobody's heard about. And that takes you into something that's called IAA. Well, they've changed the name now to the International Academy for Aeronautics. And what that is the people that if anything is found in space that is possibly sent or life or anything like that, or an odd object, has to go through this committee of these IAA people. You can look that up. I've got that on the video I just put out. And who are these people? You can look up who some of them are, their names and things. These people staying together. Who the hell are they to determine what we find out in space? So those are the gatekeepers right there that are sent that are, you know. Anyway, sorry, I don't get going too far on that. But you're looking at gatekeepers right there. International Academy for Astronautics. Look that up.
And we've talked about that before. Yeah, you and I have actually talked about that before. I think it was when you gave me that coordinate remote viewing target when we did that show together on the time travelers and the timeline protectors. I'm pretty sure we talked about that during that show about the gatekeepers there. Before we go further, we do have a question. Thank you, Pugel, for that super chat. We appreciate that. She says, do you think it's possible to change the past in your own time, or does it already know you did it? That's interesting. That's a good question. What do you have an answer for that, Barry?
I think when you go back, I'm kind of going where kind of Kaku goes with that. When you go back, you become part of the past. Okay. And I think you can't change your future in that way. And you know, some of the experiments I was hearing like Anderson doing were kind of saying that too. Some of the things about the grandfather clause don't hold up, you know. So that's just my theory. But then again, who knows? But I do know that when you're dealing with beings like what you were just talking about, had your remote view, and that would be a part of these charters I was talking about. And I gave him a nickname that is based on something I saw in Star Trek. All right. And it's called an Enterprise. It's called the Temporal Integrity Commission. And I think these beings, I think they've got something to do with protecting the timelines. And in this case, these were these Nordics I had encountered. All right. And I was a kid and they actually bilocated me during this experience. And when looking on this craft, like suddenly I could see through it, like The guy, it's a metal. The guy goes like this, and all of a sudden, I can see my city, myself, and my mother standing down there looking at this thing. Me holding that blasted Stretch Armstrong that was leaking. I was supposed to get to do Stretch Armstrong, but that's another story. Anyway, I'm looking down, I can see that, and it's almost like you could have fell through it. And I'm pretty sure this thing is like a way to record everything holographic, real space-time for historians to a degree. And I kind of correlate that to what they call the chronovisor. I think it's a much more advanced chronovisor, but I think it's a similar type of technology.
The chronovisor, the infamous chronovisor, said to be in the basement of the Vatican. Yeah, in the Vatican, right? I said it's said to be in the basement of the Vatican.
So they say, but you know, it'd be technology similar to that would create that. What I saw, what I experienced, you know, and given that craft, that actually this craft, and I've got all that's on my YouTube channel. I've got illustrations I've had done of this. But something interesting about this craft from the outside, it looked like it had windows. And most of the craft I've been on, you know, as I got older too, don't have windows because they're organic. You know, you may be able to get some way to monitor or something like type of thing, but there are no windows on most of them. But this one did have that, at least on the outside. And I think that's because you've got compartments there that have probably a lot more than just Nordic humanoids in there that are probably historians from various different, races. Who knows when we start dealing with stuff like that. So I think that's going more, into this time war and things that we're dealing with.
Yeah, did you say time war?
Time war, yeah. The first time, so I'll tell you, so I'll talk freely. When I had met the whistleblower, Corey, good. He's talking me to death, but we were walking up this thing and he started mentioning the time war. And I heard him give the best description of any of these people I've heard yet, similar to what I was getting from what's happening in my experiences. You know what I mean? So I think some things like that are interesting, what some of these people might be encountering as far as different races that are trying to jump our timelines. And right now we know something's going on because it happens during these times of high solar activity, and we get these things, and it's always one, like, for example, one of these timelines always comes up is what a nuclear war. It comes up again and again. Destruction things, And so whatever it is that's messing with the time mechanism in this dimension on Earth is always going for the destruction. And I'm glad that there's somebody that's regulating that. Thank God. And, during my experiences, I would ask, what's going to happen in the future? I wouldn't get nothing. It's a telepathic environment you're in too. I'm asking what's going to happen in the future. They wouldn't tell me, but they show me the past, stuff in the past. I say that's not going to happen again. Horrible destructions. So it makes me wonder, like, they can manipulate the space-time continuum. Maybe they don't even know because there's multiple timelines based on choice. Again, I'm giving you food for thought. I don't know for sure, but.
Well, we have heard testimony from people like Andrew Basiago, who claims to be was part of Project Pegasus. He even claims that he was in the program with Obama, like our former president. And they were actually being, I guess, like groomed, to be leaders or to be people, like prominent people in our society. And they were doing time traveling and stuff, according to what he said. And he even he claimed to have gone back. This is part, I think it was part of the Montauk project, actually, where he claimed that they were being sent back as little boys back into the past to give messages to our former presidents, like Lincoln. He claims that he was pictured. This is him in a picture. I actually even have this pulled up.
Well, not the little boy picture. Oh, no, there it is. Oh. No, just kidding. Yes, I've seen it. I would say this. What's interesting? So he was time traveling with Barry Obama. Oh wow! I think he's stealing my stuff, man. No, I'm just kidding. But no, no. But seriously, on the serious note, if when you look at Basago, the time he kind of went in the spotlight and the stuff he had said, he was the first of most all those quote unquote whistleblowers talking about the time thing. He was the first one. I saw so many people started mimicking his story after that was almost unnerving. You know what I mean? But just food for thought again. But yeah, but he was the first one to come forward about a lot of that stuff. Can I say I buy it all? No. But some of it, maybe. It's not for me really to judge. But there's because there's so much crooked stuff going on with Big Brother in this world. I wouldn't doubt any of it,
Yeah.
And maybe that is
I know
him.
we want disclosure so bad, and it's like when people come forward and tell their stories like that, it's like some people, a lot of us are like, I don't know, it just seems like another psyop or something, so can we win? I don't know. I think we're. I mean, why wouldn't he be telling us the truth about that too? It's in our faces. He's putting it right out there.
Well, I met somebody that actually designed what little bit of a website I have, and this individual, I spoke with him on a panel, and we were all asked if any of us were SSP connected, and most all of us said no, I'm not. And when it come to this individual, they said no, but I think I've been in what is called the Montauk chair.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're designing my website, this been years and years ago, I asked them about it. They said it was very interesting when they described it. Somebody that had a parent that was pretty well off in the Air Force, and one day they went in with them, and then they went in this room, and they thought the dentist was going to come in. It was a dentist chair in there, looked like a dentist chair. And then some other things happened and just some memory things, some flashes, and weird stuff that later on, years and years later, they heard Andrew Basago talking about the Montauk project and some of that equipment, and they started having memory surfaces, resurfacing.
Oh yeah. Well, we have
that's
two questions.
Somebody pretty normal. You wouldn't expect to say something like that. So.
That's true. Like, how would they know about that? I mean, there weren't it wasn't out there for people to really know about that Montauk chair. Probably. We have two questions that I do want to address because one has been put in here a couple of times, and I see all the questions, y'all. I'm trying to get to them. So Jay Trueseeker, hey, says, have you ever seen any Sasquatches on board any of those UFOs that you've been on?
No, I have not. I cannot tell you I have. It's interesting some of the stories I've gotten concerning that, though. For example, I was doing a regression with somebody, a live between lives, and they were going back to like this. They go to a place I've talked about before on these shows that is normally will guide during this process. A guide will come and take them to a location that I call the place of reconfiguration, translation, and reconfiguration, where there's like normally a book or ledgers or something that they go over the lifetime, everything learned this lifetime, what they came to work on, and then before the reincarnation on another plane or whatever, here or wherever. But anyway, this place of translation and reconfiguration can normally be a library, a nature spot, a garage, something like that. I had somebody that had one that was a ship. And the guide that always comes, the guide shows up without me when I have you under, Jessica, saying, hey, Jessica, are you seeing your guide yet? It doesn't go like that. The guide automatically comes. It's part of the process if it's done correctly and takes them to this place. When this guide comes, it's a Sasquatch when it shows itself. And it's huge. Like you're pushing probably 10, 11 feet tall, the way they're describing it, with some type of a uniform on that makes Star Trek look corny, the way it was described. And this being was describing itself as Like, for example, we have the human blueprint is called the Adam Kadmon. That's what they call it, the original blueprint for humanity. What is the Adam Kadmon, quote unquote, for Sasquatch? What is the original blueprint of them for? When you start getting in the higher levels of it, and this place of reconfiguration is for this individual said they're going to reincarnate. They're still describing universes outside of this craft. So they're outside the space-time continuum. And I can tell you some of it, what they were seeing was real, because I've seen another universe, a couple of them, and they look from the distance, they look like broken shards of glass. That's all I can tell you.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's do this one too. This is my teammate. This is David Pardue. He's going to be on my show next Saturday night, y'all, with a lot of interesting experiences. And he's actually the one who spotted the portal in the meadow that our team we talk about a lot. Okay, so this is David. Hey, David. He said, Barry, have you ever experienced beings that are very fit, dressed in all white, look normal other than having ruby-colored crystals growing out of the side of their neck? I've never heard of that, but wow, have you ever heard of that?
No. One thing on the last one too, hear a lot of reports about the more smaller Sasquatch on board craft, especially in South America. You get a lot of reports of that in Peru and things like that. Just more food for thought on that. To this question here, not exactly. I have seen beings that are in white outfits. They're more like uniforms. All right. And one was insectoid. I've seen something like that. But as far as the crystals, I've not seen exactly like that, but I have encountered these beings, and I call them throne beings. And it's like they kind of exist on these, like they're on these pillars of light, and then they have in the middle these what look like to me quasi crystals, type of quasi crystal. And each one of them it was a different color. Like one had a blue, one had a red, one had a yellow color. And I believe that they were representing the soul groups, is what they represented, these crystals. To even where I started communicating, I've met Mary Rodwell before, spoken, did another thing with her. And she had some younger contactees in Australia that had drawn these beings that were in contact with, that had these crystals in their chests also. They didn't look like the throne beings that I saw, but it was still just interesting representation. And I kind of took that and correlated that with some of the Wajina, are drawn like that too, with these things in their chest. But as far as coming out of their necks, I'm sorry, I've not encountered that though.
Yeah. Wow, so interesting. Well, okay. Well, I'm thinking about all these time travelers it seems like lately, I don't know if this is a Mandela effect or if this has always been there, but I've been seeing a lot of pictures of potential time travelers, or even people in the 1800s walking around with what looked like iPhones and cell phones, and somebody holding up like an iPhone at the Mike Tyson fight or something, like back in the 1980s, potential time travelers, like that one guy that looks like he's wearing Ray-Bans back in like the early 1900s, and clothing from the 2000s or whatever.
There's a lady at the Tyson fight, or one of those fights. Yeah. What do they call it? The lady Babushko lady or something like that. She's seen in a few of those pictures, holding something that looks like one of those older Panasonics, or like the phones anyway. But that's very interesting. And that it makes you wonder, like, how often we do actually have something like that happen, that you have, something that, because these portals, as we call them, the truth is a lot of them, they're rips in the fabric of space and time. That's what they really are. We call them portals, but that's interesting. A lot of reason by it. Someone that grows up in a location that has a portal near it, they're normally psychic and medium as heck. It's just something that kind of occurs around that anomaly if you live by one long enough, naturally.
Mm. Well, that would make sense. Well, you and I have actually really explored portals a lot. I mean, that's something you and I have talked about since the day we met at that conference. We talk about portals, and you gave me a coordinate remote viewing target of Earth's weaponized portals, natural weaponized portals, and we went down the rabbit hole on that one too, because I ended up on the sun.
The sun. Yeah. And the sun. When it comes to sun and real portals, and then again, like I said before, I'm into science, okay, to a degree, and I like at least it gives us a foundation for some of this stuff because it's so weird. You don't have to, you know what I mean? But concerning the sun, not just you were seeing that they were trying to weaponize the sun. Something is, which is terrifying. But also scientifically, there's something everybody can look up that's called electron diffusion regions. I think I mentioned that on one of your shows before. But what that is actually between the magnetic fields of the sun and the earth, where they come together every like so often, so many minutes, it creates a doorway opens, a portal. All right. And it's actually scientifically, they've recorded this. So that means if you've got advanced civilization that is using the sun, a sun is their main power source, or the fabric of space, prime thing to do. Those cold spots of the sun, not what they appear to be. There's some type of portal. You know, you've got those type of civilizations that are going in and out. And we talked about that and did a show on that, so I don't want to rehash it. But anybody can go to the Soho website and start looking at that for themselves. That takes a picture of the sun, what is it, every 2 minutes, I believe? And it's been doing it since the 90s. So
Yeah.
in several different nanospectrums. You can look at green, blue, yellow, orange. The stuff you see in the different nanospectrums coming in and out of the sun is incredible. One of the targets I gave you separate was one of those cubes near the sun.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, you guys go to my playlist over on the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube if you guys want to check those out. Go to the remote viewing playlist, remote viewing investigations, I think is what I wrote for that, how I titled that. But yeah, Barry has given me so many amazing blind remote viewing targets, you guys. And wow, I mean, it's pretty groundbreaking kind of stuff, actually, the work we've been doing, in my opinion.
Thanks.
It's pretty cool.
It's a lot of fun too, and it's informative. You know, it's good data to back up by what we might suspect or what we're told. All these things, you know, making like a tapestry. It's more cohesive. You know,
I love that.
going back to this time travel technology, some of that, you know, involves also things that are faster than light speed type of technologies too. And some of the different warp drives that they have. They've got something called Acuberi warp drive, LACIBEERE, I believe. But what it involves is actually spacing out it's the space in front of it, okay? Bending like space, they're bending space out and then actually moving the ship towards it. Whole different way of dealing with these warp, or those things they call Dirac holes, which is actually a ship creating a hole and then going into it and then using that as a hyperspace type of deal and emerging that we see. You know, these different things, these concepts concerning those that also involve not just faster than light time or speed, but also time travel. It's quite interesting, you know, different warp theories around that too. So it's I think always and one more I'll throw up too, as far as time science goes. It's called, and this because it involves one of our past targets. It actually correlates, and it's called the Tipler cylinder, TIPLER cylinder. And what the Tipler cylinder is actually a rotating cylinder that's connected, is trapping closed time-like curves. And in that way, when I had you and Tanya view Mel's hole, that data.
Love that one. Best target ever.
You know that data you both were describing a Tipler cylinder, which describes so much about some of the phenomenon that's described around that thing. You know, just last night I came across this video on YouTube that had like 2 million hits on it, saying this drone goes down in Mel's hole and what it finds will shock you. And I play this thing, it's like 27 minutes long, and it starts off saying this lady went there with a drone, yada, yada. You never see anything more about that, no evidence at all, and they just tell the story that anybody that followed it already knows, with some extra pictures of holes from around the world that's not even Mel's hole. I sat there and I was like, what in the, oh.
It's called clickbait. Clickbait.
I got clicked. I got baited. I got took. 27 minutes worth of punked. I got punked. Anyway.
It works.
Back to it.
Oh well, we all click those things sometimes. Just be careful not to click something on Instagram. I swear, you click on one thing, you get videos of that all day, every day for the next month. Okay, so yeah, just be careful. Don't click on anything if you don't have to.
But
Yeah,
as far as Mel's Hole, though, that's interesting to check. Anybody check that out and compare to the data they got with what's called a Templar cylinder. I did a couple. I even did another video over Mel's Hole on my YouTube channel, kind of making the diagrams and stuff. So, it's real interesting the stuff you can find out when you look into it a little deeper.
yeah, yeah. You guys go check out that video too on my channel, the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube. If you go to the remote viewing playlist, it's like I think it's the second most popular remote viewing video that we've made. The first one
Oh,
being
really?
the Miami Mall aliens. It's like a close
Oh
second.
boy.
Yeah. The Miami Mall
You,
aliens, that's like got a ton of views.
my niece just came back to town for a few days. She just left again. She lives
Yeah.
in Miami, and I was asking, if she found out anything more about it, and she said that was so odd how everything's been scrubbed about it, and she said, but there was a deal where they had what is it, a power outage in the city right after that. That went on for a very long time. But it seemed like it was almost connected to that deal. This big power outage, she said. She say something about a flood somewhere or something like that. There were two little weird things she said that happened in the city that were kind of around that, but how it was still unsubstantiated, even there, was very odd and peculiar, she said, the whole thing. So I again doubt the veracity of that entire deal outside of the holograms that you saw.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something fishy about that. There's something really fishy. But people were really looking for answers. And I find it really interesting that people entertained my show about remote viewing, what happened, because this is not something remote viewing was not very popular. And it's not the most popular thing, but it is becoming more popular. When I first started doing it, Barry, started doing shows on it, nobody knew what remote viewing was, hardly at all. And now look at it, it's gained a lot of popularity. So thank goodness, I don't look super
Yeah,
duper crazy
it's
anymore.
interesting. It's interesting though because I wish that there would be more like specific parameters because I see that like the scientific stuff like you and a few others are doing this real remote viewing that I've seen other people are not doing. They're telling me remote viewing, but then when they're telling me how they're doing it, it's the same way I can astral see or astral
Mhm.
seeing, astral vision. It's different. It's not quite the same as what you're doing the data system that you all are doing. These different types of viewing. I just wish that was more emphasized in the community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's getting out there. Well, people are learning today, but see, that shows you that it's becoming very popular and everybody wants to do it. Not everybody, but a lot of people are really into it, and however they interpret it or define it, that's what they want to do. But if you really want to look into remote viewing, really, there's the type of remote viewing I do is the type that the military uses. Okay, so it is very scientific. It's not just clairvoyance. You use your clairvoyant skills, use your psychic skills in a scientific manner to collect data. Okay, so anyways, we're not going to do a lesson on remote viewing tonight, but I just think it's great that it's becoming popular. Yeah.
But then you have stuff like this, the kill shot. And I'm going to say it again. I said before that you've got that, and a lot of that stuff didn't happen. Look at the stuff that was predicted and to come off this in like 97. A lot of it didn't happen, thank God. But I mean, you've got that as well as this amount of contactees that get these visions, these horrible visions of the future, the cataclysms, all that. As bad as the people like Gordon Michael Scallion seeing that, seeing this, and all these predictions of doom and gloom that don't happen. Okay, and I think there's a real reason for that. As far as they're trying to jump our timeline to that, to a deal like that, or are these contactees getting these visions because it's attempt to prevent it? I don't think so because I've not had that during my experiences. Why not? I'm just throwing this on the table because all this needs to be looked at because certain things as far as the narrative and contact scenario and all this stuff is trying to be rewritten right underneath our noses. What the real mass of contact is like, opposed to what we're hearing, this negative thing, which is true. But I mean, that flies in the media like nothing else and entrains our brains where if you have actually beings from coming from these Makos, the Akashic records try to communicate with you through the divine field, through your brain waves, which have been entrained with negative encounters, you are strong enough to warp some of that into a negative encounter with even beings of that caliber. We're not as weak as we're told, believe me. So
No, powerful. We are so powerful. If people just were aware, if everybody was aware of how powerful even our thoughts are, you would never think a negative thought ever again. It is so, we are so powerful, and we manifest. Your thoughts become things. So be careful, y'all. Be careful about, we manifest easily. And right now, I feel like the energetics are just like perfect to manifest things almost instantaneously these days. I mean, at least for some of us. But man, this has been a fantastic show, Barry. We have run out of time. We're at the end of the hour. Do you have any final thoughts, or can you also tell people where to find you?
Two things: Mandela effect there and deja vu. Just think about some of the things like the time reactor I described, and there's other technologies. I've got some of them on my channel. That when you're around in the vicinity of one of those things in operation, it may cause things like the just Mandela effect and time shifts in your vicinity as a time sensitive you'll pick up on, but also deja vu. You get a lot of that around that. Anyway, you can reach me on YouTube, Barry Littleton. I'm starting to put more stuff out there. I'm on Patreon. My website is barrylittleton.com, but I do more stuff on YouTube and Patreon, and do stuff on Facebook too. I try to communicate a little bit on there, and that's about as cool as I am, sadly. So
you're pretty darn cool, man. You're awesome, Barry. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. This has been another fantastic conversation, and I hope you'll come back and see us again here at Spaced Out Radio.
I hope I didn't talk too much, so thank you. I appreciate you.
You were perfect. You're perfect. All right, Barry, listen, have a wonderful week, and I know I'll be seeing you soon. Okay, thank you for being here. All right, have a good night. We'll see you later. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. What a great show tonight. I hope you guys all learned something. I know I did. I always do. And please don't forget that right after we cut the show tonight, go over to After Hours and hang out with Rob G. He's got Lala right there tonight. And I'm sure they're going to have a fantastic show. So you guys, please come see me over at the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube this week. I'm going to have some great shows. And David Pardue, who's in the chat tonight, will be my guest on Saturday night over on my channel. So I hope to see you guys there. Have a great week. Like I said, you guys stay safe out there. And I will be back next weekend. Y'all have a great night. Okay, bye, y'all.